Hello, people of the world watching videos about cars on the internet. Welcome to this. My 1974 RA21 Toyota Celica that will soon house this high compression built NA 2UZ V8. If you're new and you'd like to get caught up on the last video where I attempted to teach myself how to TIG weld, up above my head is for a link. Get it? For link. Never mind. That requires some welding, so I'm gonna try to actually put that to practice, even though I need more practice. The one thing I am capable of that I can say with certainty is tacking. Oh no. If you recall 2 videos ago, I custom fabricated these little pieces for the lower forelink with the assistance of the plasma table at the shop next door. They need to get welded into place approximately like that, which I feel I am definitely more than capable of doing. So, okay, that's not light. Oh. Last thing I want is sparks all over my watts. For those of you who never had the pleasure of smelling hot burning rubber undercoating, baby flapper disc for a Dremel. Maybe this will work. It smells a bit like you could imagine a dumpster full of tires on fire. Yeah, it works like crap. Yeah, that's better. And it is definitely the last thing you want to have on a metal surface you're gonna try to weld, especially with a TIG welder. It has to be spotless. I just realized I don't have any weld through primer. When these 2 pieces are joined together with weld along the edges, there's gonna be a gap slightly through the bolt hole, and for obvious reasons, I'm not gonna try to weld that bolt hole. It's just asking to break drill bits. I think what I'll try to do is take seam sealer and block off the backside and smush it down inside that hole. And then once a bolt is tight against it, I don't think there's any way a water molecule will be able to get down inside there. That's good right there. Gas. Gas flow is set just about 20 at the bottle. I zip tied the hand control to the torch, kind of where my index finger would naturally rest while I'm using it. In the last video, I used the torch in my left hand, even though I'm right-handed, thinking it would be easier, but I don't think it is. I haven't had a chance to weld anything else since the last video went up because you watch every second I'm awake, essentially, on this channel, but I will try to slowly incorporate it more and more so I can get better at it. I think that'll hold it together. Even though the forelink uses Heim joints, so I don't really have to worry about it pinching because it can still pivot regardless. Aha! It's tacked. Round number 2. I have to still be careful with the welder on these little tabs because I don't want to induce too much heat and cause these angled brackets to warp, making it impossible for me to reinstall the forelink. TIG welding upside down kind of sucks, but this was still enjoyable. I wanted to try doing a bead, but I just know that it's not very efficient. I have to get longer bolts. Jeez, that was violent. With the magic of time-lapse, I will now make a few hours go by. I have never asked this ever before in a YouTube video, and I'm only gonna ask it once, but I notice only 12% of you have all notifications turned on for when I put a new YouTube video out, and it would help a lot. So if you guys want to know when I put a new video out, just hit that little bell thingy, please. Ouch. Thank you. Aw, man, the lift's in the way. I can't do the other one. The car has to get repositioned. Hello and welcome to the following day. I acquired a fabric cobbler. Actually, I stole Seth from the barbecue shop. Doing the underside of that car with all TIG welding was not exactly efficient, and I'm not the TIG welder to do that. So Seth is gonna do all of the welding with MIG, so it goes quicker. Also, you said TIG gets way hotter, right? Induces way more heat.
It'll like warp your brackets and stuff if you're not careful.
The benefit of having someone do this that welds for a living is that even with a MIG welder, his worst MIG welds will look 10 times better than my best TIG welds. Need to make a little filler piece for him. It really does smell like bacon. Yeah. It sounds like bacon, but it smells like it. So it doesn't really matter what type of welding is happening underneath this car. It's still gonna look good and serve its purpose just fine. You just did what would have took me like 6 hours to do in like 2 minutes. Done. All the fabrication on the rear suspension now is complete, and I can start putting interior in this car. Seth absolutely knocked this out of the park. All this stuff now is braced and welded up fully all the way around, so the forelink is much stronger into the chassis. Oh geez, I feel like one gone midnight when the Blackbird was getting all its additional chassis welds done on it. This is the same thing, not really, but I really want to get some OEM looking JIS hardware for this anyway. Where did I put it? Ah, shapes. Shapes. This thing's heavy. Why am I so awkward at everything? Why can't I just move this like a normal human? I don't know if I should make this go higher. I guess the right angle is the angle in which it does not rub or hit anything, right? After doing some research, using this angle finder on the tail of the transmission, the maximum angle you want your drivetrain to be is 3 degrees before you run into drivetrain vibration issues, with ideal being 1.5 degrees. Allow me to explain. Yes, I put on my lab coat just for this. I'm that dumb. So this hopefully will help a little bit. So this is my crude drawing of the 2UZ, a little W58 transmission. What I'm referring to is the angle of your drive line. You don't want any more than 3 degrees or any less than 1/2 degree. And the reason being is because that is the appropriate range of degree for your U-joints in the drive line to function correctly. Any more than that and you'll end up developing vibrations in your drive line as it rotates faster and faster. Mine, oh, that's 90. 0, there you go. Mine is sitting at approximately 1.5 degrees, closer to 1.5. A workaround, what some manufacturers do is you can angle the rear diff upward and also position your engine and transmission at a slope. That way you still keep that angle right here within that safe range. Can't really adjust it anyway because the bushing on the steering rack is about the width of a paper towel from the bottom of the oil pan. The workaround that a lot of manufacturers do, and I believe this car actually had a 2-piece drive shaft if I remember correctly, is by using a carrier pigeon bearing in the center. That is the correct terminology. And that breaks up the span of the drive shaft, so that way you can still keep this within 1/2 to 3 degrees and this between 1/2 to 3 degrees for a longer distance. Which means I'm definitely gonna have to do some more massaging of that firewall, which is why I didn't paint the engine bay when I painted the car. I gotta figure out how to transfer these holes onto this without, how do I do that? Also, in case you're wondering, this thing's probably gonna go away first week in November or second week in November after SEMA. Stick this like right here. Now, in theory, if I smush this up, it should go into those holes and give me an idea where this goes. I gotta try to get it equal on the left and the right side, and that's like almost not possible. Well, that's some sticky clay. It's like literally holding it in place. Oh, it's definitely smushed, that's for sure. Yeah, that was a fail. Fail! That was not the right answer. Like, I kind of can see a hole right here. Man, now it's like impermeated in this piece of metal. People whose parents made them actually do their homework and are good at math are laughing at me right now because this could be solved with equations. Just try this approach. Ah, joke's on you, math teacher. Art teacher was correct. I just line this tape up with those 2 marks I made, and then also a little gold shadow from that one that's stuck. Oh, that lines up perfect. That thing takes a lot of force. Hey, one side. I really hope I didn't screw this up because I'm not good at math. All the holes line up exactly. I made all these holes the exact diameter. There's like no wiggle room at all, which I don't know necessarily if it needs to be that way. Even though this is a Japanese car that was built in Japan, the distance from the holes on either side of the car are exactly to the dot 2 feet. That should be my center line of all the holes. Okay. Hell yeah. How did I screw that up? I didn't catch it on camera, but these lock washers on these bolts are exploding. It's literally just barely hand tight, and I heard, yeah, it was this one over here. That's just barely hand tight. It's not torqued whatsoever, and the washer just shattered. Slight problem though, my transmission mount doesn't match up. Holy crap. The captured lock washer literally exploded. That was hand tight. None of this hardware is anywhere on the car. I was just using it for testing purposes. But yeah, definitely not gonna use any of this on the car. Ooh, that's nerve-wracking. Man, transmission mount doesn't work. It doesn't fit on 2 different axes. My oil pan's resting on the steering rack right now, so that's as far down as I can droop the tail of the transmission, plus I can't really anyway because of the angle. So this has to go up physically higher. And also, as you probably just noticed in that shot, the bolts need to go about a bolt width further back because I'm maxed out right here. I can't possibly move this back any further. It hits. Situations like this is why you have the rinse and repeat cycle with project cars. Everyone does the same exact thing over and over because the more rare an engine swap is, the more stuff you have to fabricate yourself from scratch. Thankfully, I have a can-do attitude. Is that Aussie Man Reviews that says that? I love him, he's awesome. I'm gonna do exactly what Toyota did from the factory. This is not supposed to be all the way down on this car. So this up here, that's about where it needs to go. At least that's the angle it needs to go. Okay. If I remember correctly, that's literally how Toyota did it from the factory. This mount had a lower base and then a shelf that the hardware attached to. I just gotta do it like Toyota did. Hello, welcome to the 3rd day on this video. I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep, so forgive me for having giant bags under my eyes. The game plan for this is, the way Toyota did it is, you can see currently I have the rubber transmission mount bolted to the very bottom of this transmission crossmember. There's 2 benefits to changing this. One, that hardware is exposed to getting ground off if the car bottoms out. What I'll essentially do is create a false bottom inside here, open this up, which is how Toyota had it originally. This is open on the bottom, and then this guy will bolt up to the center of it right there. And I can also add angle to that plate in the center, which will adjust for the position of the transmission, the angle of it, to keep everything happy. Is that supposed to be like that? Does this thing move? Oh, it moves! That's crazy, okay. It's got a level on it. What I'm about to do is also gonna help out with an issue that some of you had pointed out in a past video about drainage, because this thing is essentially a cup that's gonna collect water. So by having that false bottom, I wish I had a false bottom. Never mind. People like big butts, what can I say? This is going to make for drainage way better. My grammar is terrible. That would hurt if you got that on your skin. That process is, by doing the holes on the corners, it'll make it prettier because it'll be rounded from the straight cuts. That's the downfall of a cutoff wheel, is you usually get that little after cut past your corner and it looks like crap. I don't really know if this is the best place to cut this, but the last thing I want is this thing flying off and hitting me in the gut. That would really suck. I'd be like the grape lady where she was squishing the grapes on the news. That was very sketchy. Ooh, spicy. I don't dare touch these gloves. These gloves will be part of my hand for the rest of my life if I do. That's not the worst cut. I can absolutely clean that up with a flapper disc and make it squared and pretty. Now if I take something like this, slightly wider with some elongated holes, it would allow this guy to be adjustable slightly. I forgot, I kept this thing over here. Here's the factory crossmember. See how there's like a little shelf in the middle? See how it's kind of raised? It's higher on this side than it is on this side. This is pretty much flush. If this is mounted right above it, I won't be able to get a socket on the hardware if that hole that size. It was a lot harder to cut than it looks. Don't judge me, okay? It's a little crooked. I gotta polish it up. See? Now you can get to all 4 bolts. There's plenty of room to get a socket on there. There's room for adjustability in that I can move this back and forth. And then once that floating shelf is in there for the transmission mount to sit on, I can weld it back up and there won't be any drainage issues. So now all I have to do, this guy goes like that, and then the cross member. And then there's enough room for me to put the plate where it needs to go. There'll be little gaps on the side, and then tack it where it needs to sit and take it back down and then weld it all up exactly the way it needs to go. And it will fit perfect. I have to edit this video that you're watching right now so I can get it up on the internet in time for you to see today. There's really not much fabrication left to do on this car other than the exhaust and the headers. I don't know why I said exhaust like that, but it's more fun. So I'm not sure what's coming in the next video with it, but I'll try to mix things up and make it a little bit more exciting. I can either start on pulling this harness apart and building my own custom harness, which I gotta figure out what I'm doing for ECU, or I can start putting this engine together, getting ready to go back in the car. They're both equally as important, as well as I can start putting the interior stuff together too now that I got all the welding and the floor done. There's that. You guys comment below, let me know what you want to see next on that car, and that's what I'll start doing. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!